Can I say?
Sure.
North Korea's best comedian, Lee Won-un.
Yeah, buddy, guys. You know, the story I always was told was that Santa Claus technically is real because, like, he was alive, right? And then one day he died, like in the summertime or something, right? And on his deathbed, he told his best friend, like, hey, you know, like, you gotta dress up like me, you know what I mean? Because the kids are gonna be so disheartened, you know what I mean? So his friend did that his whole life. Then when he died, he told someone else, like, hey, you gotta, you know, these kids are gonna be neighbors if they don't show up on Christmas. And so that went on. So when your parents pretend to be Santa Claus, you're just, whatever, doing that tradition. And so technically he's alive. And, what did the Australian chess player say to the waiter? Checkmate? And, you know, Shaquille O'Neal's like the happiest man on earth, right? It's like always so jolly, right? He had like a really blessed life, you know? And I think also because no one's ever messed with him, right? Like, how are you gonna bully someone who's so tall the crotch is like right in their face, right? It's like, hey, Shaq, give me your lunch money. Never mind. Yeah, I see this billboard around Hollywood about this blind guy who climbed Mount Everest. And I was thinking, like, how do you know he's climbing Mount Everest, you know? For all you know, he could have been like right over here at Mount Whitney or whatever. I was thinking, actually, it's a pretty good business idea, you know? Taking blind mountain climbers up to Mount Everest. And, you know, a couple weeks ago, North Korea sent over 200 balloons to South Korea. Yeah, they were filled with garbage and excrement. That statement's not exactly accurate, because they weren't filled with shitty trash. No, they were packed with Dane Cook's jokes. Yeah, retaliation. South Korea had set up these loudspeakers, you know, and they're blasting like anti-communist propaganda and K-pop and stuff. And in retaliation for that, North Korea set up their own loudspeakers, you know. But they don't have bands like BTS in North Korea, you know. So they just blast like the most annoying sounds they could think of. Yeah, you probably guessed it. Matt Wright's comedy special. Yeah, there's a new disorder going around called Usher syndrome. Yeah, it makes you go blind and deaf. Pretty serious, right? You know, I always thought when you got Usher syndrome, it just made you go, yeah, yeah. I'll tell you a story. You know, I'll tell you a story. I was in the United States Army, you know, first kind of division for it. Yeah, it's weird being the only Asian person, you know. Every day, people just look at me like, are we supposed to shoot this guy? It's cool being in the Army, you get some good benefits, you know. I'd say the best benefit was the ability to give old men hard-ons. Yeah, old men, they love hearing Army stories. I guess because it makes them feel younger, it gives them hope for the future or something. If I meet some old man in a park and I start telling Army stories, I'm telling you, it's going to come all over me. I'll tell you the Army story. You know, people in the Army sometimes we acquire nicknames, right? Like there was one guy, he had a big old head, right? So everyone called him Scully. You know, to this day, I have no idea what his real name was, you know. But if I see him today, I'd be like, Scully! Anyway, I had a nickname for a short period there, basically. It was Kenobi, right? Yeah, like towards the end of base training, we were all like camped out in the big black area. And we're all getting ready to pack up and march back to the base, right? Now, none of us were looking forward to this, you know, because force marching is like one of the hardest things to do in the Army. You know, they load you like 80 pounds of gear, you know, and you just march along with your weapon and stuff. It sucks, right? The first time we did it was like 4 miles, which was really hard, right? And the second time was 8 miles, you know, which like haunts my dreams, right? This time we're supposed to be 16 miles, right? So everyone's like, oh, man, you know, no one's looking forward to this. Anyway, I'm with my platoon, we're marching back to this rendezvous point. And on the side of the road, there's this truck, right? And out from behind this truck, the sergeant steps out and he's like, hey, I need help loading this truck, right? So right away, my brain goes, bing! Like, if he needs help loading that truck, then he's gonna need help unloading that truck. So I was like, I'll do it, right? And I run out of formation, you know, I just start loading the truck, you know? Now my whole platoon is looking at me like, what the hell is wrong with this guy, you know? Like, what, he just loves to work or something? Like, what an idiot, right? And so they march off to the rendezvous point, and then the whole company marches off, right? Now me and these 5 other guys were like loading up this truck. It takes like 45 minutes, right? So we hop in the back and we drive off, right? After just 10 minutes, you know, we catch up to the column, right? We're like, hey, what's up? All those guys did the same thing, right? They're like marching along, and, you know, they're all tired, right? And they look up at us and they're like, oh, right? And the next guy, right? He looks up, oh, right? Next guy too, like, oh, right? And we just drive past and we're like, bye, you know? And then we get to the base, right? We're like, unload the truck, right? It takes like 45 minutes, right? Then we go eat shower, we go take showers, we're like writing letters home. You know, all this free time, you know, just hours and hours, right? And after a while, like we find these office chairs, right? So we're like racing each other. Then we find these brooms, right? We're like jousting each other and shit, you know, just fucking around. And finally someone's like, hey, they're coming back, right? So we all go to look and shit, and we're like, what the fuck? You know, last time we saw them, they're all marching together in a big unit, right? Now they're just like trickling in one at a time and shit, like every man for himself. I'm like, what the hell's going to happen there, right? They're like walking like zombies, right? And then finally the whole mass of them show up, right? They're just like a zombie horde, you know, they even sound like zombies. Like, some of them like dragging shit and stuff. So I run downstairs, right, and I find my buddy. I was like, hey man, what the hell took you guys so long, right? And he's just staring at me like, he's like just covered in mud from even on top of his head and shit. And the only thing he could say was like, you knew, how did you know? And the guy next to him was like, oh man, that motherfucker is Iwan Kenobi. Yeah, that's pretty good. You know, it's a lot shorter and better than my old nickname, which was that Chinese looking motherfucker. I'll tell you another story. The day I saw real life cowboys, you know. If you've never seen real life cowboys, it's pretty impressive, right? I was driving through Nebraska, right? And I wanted to get a look around, right? So I got off the freeway. And right when I did that, okay, yeah, all right, this does recur. Right when I did that, I was like, oh man, it's a bad idea, right? Because it was like 50 cows right in front of me, you know? Like a wall of cows, right? So I stopped and I'm like, what am I supposed to do now? You know, maybe I should back up. But then the cows just started partying, right? And I could see why. It's because these two guys are riding up on horses, you know? And they're like, yeah. And because of that, the horse, you know, cows are partying, right? They're doing that for me, right? So I drive past them, you know, and I'm looking at them like, man, these guys are fucking awesome, right? You know, I've seen some tough motherfuckers, right? Because I was in the army. These guys are like tough as nails and shit. They're like 6'4", 250 pounds, you know? And then like they have jean jackets, cowboy hats, and guns and shit. I'm like, man, look at these guys, fucking badass, you know? And then I jerked off and went on with it. I'll end with this last joke. You know, people will always tell you two things, right? They'll always tell you when they just got booked on a show, and they'll always tell you when they just had sex. That's a bit juvenile, right? Like myself, I've been booked on a show in over a month. But I did get laid last week, so whoa! My name is Iwan, thank you.
Give her Iwan and peanuts.